Igbattmho.org, providing information and support while encouraging hope and faith, making sure that everyone knows. You can't see my t-shirt, but it says, make hope an option. That's what we're here for, is to let you know that hope is always an option. No matter what you're going through, hope is always an option. And today I wanted to talk about death by suicide. And I wanted to share, many people may or may not have heard of Deion Sanders. He's like was like a really good football player. I'm sorry, I don't know all the details, but I know he was really good. He's a Hall of Famer, but right now he's a coach, and is doing really well. But he was on an interview, and he recently shared, and he shared this before, but this was the first time that I saw it, that back in 1997, I think it was, he had attempted to take his own life. He talked about being really depressed. He was really depressed, and what he did was he drove his car, and I'm going to quote, he says, "I was going through the trials and tribulations of life. I was pretty much running on fumes. I was empty, no peace, no joy, losing hope with the progression of everything." And this is a quote from him. And he said he became really depressed, he became rock bottom, and that's when he decided to try to end his life in 1997 by driving his car off a 40-foot cliff. So I want you to pay attention to that. That's 1997. He was feeling depressed, and he tried to kill himself or die by suicide by driving his car off a 40-foot cliff. Okay? And it said, of course, despite the lengthy fall in his car, he escaped without significant injury. And it was at that time that he said, hey, I need to turn my life over to the Lord. He says, I finally just got on my knees and gave it all to the Lord. Well, again, pay attention to 1997, and this is 2023. When you take a look at what he's done from 1997 to 2023, not just in the lives of his life, but the lives of other people in a positive way. In a positive way from 1997 to 2023, if he wasn't around, the things that God had put in him, desires, the things that he was supposed to have accomplished, would have never got accomplished. And what I'm coming to you to say, that don't give up. Do not ever lose hope. When we talk about dying by suicide, many times people get really depressed, we get really worried, we get down. And when I'm talking about depression, I'm talking about clinical depression. As we talked about before, there's a difference between sadness versus clinical depression. When you talk about sadness, if you lose a job, if you, someone steals your car, or, you get into an argument, it's normal to be sad. Right? What happens with sadness goes away once the situation that you're sad about gets better. I'm homeless. Well, once you get a place, you're no longer sad. But when we're talking about clinical depression, you could hit the lottery and you could still not be okay, right? Because when we talk about clinical depression, we're talking about changes that actually happen biologically, right? So we're talking about clinical depression and sadness, but I just want to make sure sadness, it may be on a scale of 1 to 10, maybe like a 1, where depression, clinical depression, is like a 10 when we're talking about in severity. But what happens whenever we get really depressed or sad or just in a bad place mentally, we start having all these negative thoughts. It's important for you to know, and I wrote this down so I won't remember, your feelings and thoughts are not always facts. Your feelings and thoughts are not always facts. I know you think they are. I feel this way, I think this way. It is not always facts. Okay? Because where do we get our thoughts and feelings from? We get our thoughts and feelings from our previous experiences. We get them from life experiences, culture, where we were raised. All of those things play into how we think or how we view things, right? A certain situation. So our feelings and thoughts are not always accurate. So you can't go by and say because you feel a certain way that it must be true. All of our thoughts and feelings has to be checked with the reality. And I bring that up because whenever you're feeling depressed or feeling sad even, we have a tendency to engage in a lot of negative thinking. We start feeling a certain way. We start feeling like there's no hope. We start thinking and feeling that there are no options. We start thinking and feeling as if that no one cares. We start thinking and feeling that there's no hope, that tomorrow things will never change, right? We start thinking this. We start overgeneralizing. We start using words like always, everybody, and nobody, and there are very few things that's always, everybody, and nobody. We start, getting into this thing where we get into all or nothing thinking, right? If it doesn't happen this way, then it'll never happen, right? If they say this about me, it means they don't like me. We overgeneralize. We get into this black and white thinking. We think that nothing will ever change because of what we're feeling and because of what we're thinking in the moment. Our thinking and feelings change. And just because we think or feel a certain way, we do not need to act on it. So I may think and feel like nobody cares, and I might think and feel like I want to kill myself or die by suicide, but that doesn't mean that it's a fact. So I wanted to share some things. I just thought that was interesting because when you look at his life, and I want you to look at yours, if you end your life today, okay, think about all the things that you'll miss out. Because keep in mind, everyone has a God-given reason for living. Whether you believe in God or not, there's a purpose here for you. There's a purpose for your life. There's a reason why you're here. And if you are no longer here, then that purpose cannot be fulfilled. So think about from 1997 to 2023, and you look at and again, I'm talking about Deion Sanders now. When you look at what he's done since 1997 to 2023. 1997 to 2023. Look at all the things that he's done. Okay, all of the people that he's helped, all the people that he's given jobs, all of the raising his children, seeing his children at a certain age, get to a certain place in life. And I want you to think about that as well, because if you give up now, think about all the things that you're going to miss, the changes, the opportunities that you're going to give up. You owe it to yourself to try a little longer. Just keep it in mind. Let's just say things have not worked out for you for the last 5 years, but you don't know what the next 5 years is going to be like. Right? You don't know. So I'm saying to you, don't give up, that there's hope out there. Dying by suicide, thinking that you need to end it all, yeah, you may be having those thoughts and those feelings, but there are other options. You do not have to act on those thoughts. And I just wanted to share a few things. This is from Suicide in America, Frequently Asked Questions, and I wanted to share it. So first of all, what is suicide? Suicide is when people direct violence at themselves with the intent to end their lives, and they die because of their actions. Okay? And we usually like saying death by suicide or die by suicide. Okay? A suicide attempt is when people harm themselves with the intent to end their lives, but they do not die because of their actions. So what Deion did, that was a suicide attempt, right? In 1997, by driving his car off the cliff. I know there are some people who make suicide attempts by taking a lot of pills. I think I shared before, I was talking to this gentleman who he had attempted like 3 times. And finally, after the 3rd time, he just kind of realized, hey, there's a reason why I'm still here. Because, he took, the last time he took a whole bunch of pills. He was sitting out on the bench thinking that this was going to be it for him. And even though he tried to hide, somebody found him. So again, there are different ways that people die by suicide, a suicide attempt. Some people may drive real fast with the intent of trying to harm themselves. Some people may cut themselves with the intent to harm themselves. And the intent is important because there are some people who may cut themselves, but their intent is not necessarily to kill themselves or die by suicide. Their attempt is to deal with their pain. But suicide attempt is when the person is attempting, I'm trying to kill myself, I'm trying to die by suicide. So who's at risk for suicide? People of all genders, ages, and ethnicities can be at risk. Now I'm going to read some of these risk factors, but keep in mind, even if you or somebody you know may have some of these risk factors, it doesn't mean automatically that they're going to die by suicide. It doesn't mean that they're going to kill themselves or that or anything like that. These are just some risk factors. Risk factors in themselves are, I'm not going to say they don't mean much, but risk factors, you have to look at the entire picture, okay? The main risk factors of suicide are a prior suicide attempt. If a person tried one time, they may try again, so that can be a risk factor. Depression and other mental health disorders. In the overwhelming cases, when a person dies by suicide, depression is a major factor. So are we saying that anytime a person is depressed, that they're automatically going to die by suicide or attempt to kill or kill themselves? No, that's not what we're saying. But what we are saying, what the research is saying, that in many of the cases, that when a person does die by suicide or attempt to kill themselves, depression is a major factor. So kind of keep that in mind. Or other mental health disorders. Substance abuse disorder. There's a lot of controversy among some people with marijuana use. And again, for adults, if you want to do marijuana, smoke, okay, that's on you. The problem, me personally, that I have with it is that the impact it has on a lot of the younger people. A lot of the young people may not have adequate coping strategies, and instead of seeking help for their mental health concerns or seeking out a professional person or another adult, they start using smoking marijuana. And they tell me it helps with their mood, which is great. But you have to do more. You need more than, if you have a problem, getting something to help with your mood is great, but you also need to learn strategies and techniques and ways to deal with the problem. You can't just smoke what's going on with you away. And unfortunately, far too many people are doing that. They're getting the marijuana, they're feeling good, their mood is relaxed, they're calm. Oh, Mr. Arnett, it helps me sleep, it helps me relax. But you're not doing anything about the problem, right? You're not doing anything about what's really going on. The marijuana is actually masking what's happening to you in life. And then what's happening is, the more as you smoke and you're not paying attention to what's going on around you, life is passing you by. And you're still dealing with the same problem. So that's just my 2 cents there. Who is at risk for suicide? Family history of mental health or substance abuse disorder. Family history of suicide, family violence, including physical or sexual abuse, having guns or other firearms in the home. Why? Because if I'm feeling depressed and the gun or the firearm is there, it's easier for me to get it. I have an easier access. Being in prison or jail, being exposed to others' suicidal behavior, such as family member or media figure, a medical illness, being between the ages of 15 and 24 or over age 60, and these numbers are changing. Okay, and as I said before, even among people who have risk factors for suicide, most do not attempt suicide. Okay, so just kind of keep that in mind. Just because a person may have a prior suicide attempt, they may never attempt again. Just because a person is depressed doesn't automatically mean that they're going to think about suicide or die by suicide. Just because a person using substance use. So again, these are just, I was just reading off some of the risk factors, some of the things that we pay attention to. But just because a person has these risk factors doesn't mean that they're a prime candidate or that they will commit suicide, okay? Are certain groups of people at higher risk for suicide? Okay. Men are more likely to die by suicide than women, but women are more likely to attempt suicide. Men are more likely to use more lethal methods such as firearms or suffocation. Women are more likely to attempt suicide by poisoning. Okay? We know American Indian and Alaska Native youth and middle-aged persons have the highest rate of suicide. Okay? Followed by non-Hispanic, white, middle-aged, and older adult males. And I'm going to stop there. I'm not going to continue to read all of the groups. I just want you to know that no one is exempt. Okay, you can go on our website and get this information, or you can go on to the NIMH.gov as well to get this information. So I want you to know that no one is exempt from suicide. Being rich, being poor, anything in the middle, black, white, everything in the middle, no one is exempt. Having a religious belief, believing in God, not believing in God, no one is exempt. At that particular moment, when a person chooses to take their life or they choose to die by suicide, that person, all they can see, they're caught up in tunnel vision. All they can think, all they can feel is what they're thinking and feeling at the moment. That's why it's so important that all of us, that we have to get into the habit of challenging our thoughts. Just because you think and feel a certain way does not make it right, does not make it correct, does not make it facts. You have to challenge your thoughts. Is it true that everybody feels this way? Where's the evidence? Okay? When we start getting into this negative thinking, or thinking that everybody's against us, or nobody likes us, or the world is, unsafe place, etc., we have to begin to challenge that. Because again, there are very few things where it's always the case, where nobody likes me, okay? We have to challenge that. So the question is, why do some people become suicidal while others with similar risk factors do not? Okay? There are a lot of people who will go in and out of prison and jail, and they never commit suicide or think about taking their lives, right? As I said before, there are people who have a family history of mental health or substance abuse disorder, and they never think about killing themselves. What makes the difference, okay? And I'm going to read it straight from the handout, and then I'll talk about it. Most people who have the risk factors for suicide will not kill themselves. However, the risk for suicidal behavior is complex. Research suggests that people who attempt suicide may react to events, think, and make decisions differently than those who do not attempt suicide. I'm going to read this again. Research suggests that people who attempt suicide may react to events, think, and make decisions differently than those who do not attempt suicide. These differences happen more often if a person also has a disorder such as depression, substance abuse, anxiety, borderline personality disorder, which is another mental health disorder, and psychosis. Risk factors are important to keep in mind. However, someone who has warning signs or suicide may be in more danger and require immediate action. So again, it's easy to say that the reason why this person decided to take their life was because of what somebody said, because they were being bullied, because of someone, their parents put them out of their house, or they lost their job, they don't have any money. It's easy to say that, but it's much bigger than that, because there are a lot of people who are being bullied, who are parents put them out of their house, or who don't have any money, who do not die by suicide, who do not kill themselves, and who never think about it. So there's a lot of factors that go into it, and it really, we have to look at the individual as well, not just the circumstance, okay? So what are some warning signs? So I talked about some risk factors, okay? But what are some warning signs of suicide? And again, these warnings are not hard fast. It's not, if you see these warnings, it's going to be an automatic thing. Talking about wanting to die or wanting to kill themselves. Let me just say this. Many times when a person starts talking about suicide, a person will talk about it before they actually kill themselves. And that's why it's so important for us to listen, to take the time, let a person talk. Okay? Talking about wanting to die or wanting to kill themselves. If you're listening to me, I don't want you to be afraid to ask the question straight out. Okay, are you thinking about killing yourself? And don't beat around the bush, or, just come straight out and ask the question. Are you thinking about killing yourself? And let the person talk. Many times people want someone to ask them the question, right? There was a gentleman, many people, you're watching me, you've heard of the bridge in California, the San Francisco bridge, where a lot of people go to jump off. He was at the bridge, and he was preparing to jump. And he was at the bridge for like a long period of time, and no one ever even asked him any questions. No one ever asked him, how you doing? No one ever said, do you need any help? He said he was there at the bridge actually crying, walking around, walking up and down, and no one even took the opportunity or to say, hey, are you okay? Do you need any help? So don't be afraid if you see someone in distress to ask the question. Are you thinking about killing yourself? Again, I'm on warning signs of suicide. Talking about feeling empty, hopeless, or having no reason to live. Okay? The person may be really depressed. Okay? So you want to talk about that. Okay? Planning or looking for a way to kill themselves, such as searching online, stockpiling pills, or newly acquiring potential lethal items. Talking about great guilt or shame. They're talking about feeling trapped or feeling that there are no solutions. There is always a solution. There's nothing that you're going through, that you're dealing with right now, that there is not a plan, a strategy, a way out. Sometimes that plan, strategy, way out may mean that you'll have to make a decision. Sometimes you may have to say no. Sometimes you may have to walk away. But there's always a way out. See, when we get into this state, some of us, where we think the answer has to come from outside of ourselves. I can't do. I'm this way because he's doing this to me. I'm this way. My life is this way because she is treating me this particular way. No, God has given everyone the ability to make a choice. Right? He has given everyone the ability to make a change. We just have to decide that we're going to make the change, or that we're going to walk out by faith. Okay. Anytime you feel trapped, you feel like there's no hope, there's no answer, that's an enemy. That's just a trick. That's making you feel, that's a potential stealer. That's those thoughts, those feelings have come to steal your potential. Those feelings, those thoughts have come to make you feel that there's no hope. And if there's no hope, then you're going to give up. And if you give up, you're going to feel, oh, there's nothing, this is just how